So if you haven't been to one of these, this is a time where you get to ask them a direct question, preferably around spirituality or the like. And they're going to basically go through it and give you their thoughts on it. And Dave in the back corner is thrusting his hand up, so he's going to show us how it's done. I'm going to take the mic back to him.
I'm going to let Jane take this one.
This is platform 2. Check. Platform 2.
What did Monty Python say? Pork. That's the answer, pork.
You're muted now.
It actually is for Jane. Jane, why do you got to retire? I'm going to miss you. That's just what I want to ask you.
To everything there is a season.
Okay, so I've started reading Discover Your Divinity, and it's about affirmative prayer. And so I would really love to find the correlation of how affirmative prayer really works with manifesting and how that, because it seems like it's kind of the same thing. It seems like prayer and manifesting are kind of the same thing. So I would really love if you could tell us about how affirmative prayer really works for, as a replacement of the idea of manifesting, just because manifesting has kind of become a cliche thing. And I think the affirmative prayer is just really opening up a new understanding for me.
I would say that manifesting is kind of your experience, like you manifest an experience, right? But how do you manifest that experience? It's through prayer, where you shift your attention from what seems to be to the truth of what is, and as you are abiding in that truth, then you get to see it in the material world, and we call that seeing, manifesting.
I think too, it has been confused with manifesting. We were all familiar with like The Secret. Remember the movie The Secret? And all about manifesting stuff that you want in your life. And while that does actually work through intense prayer, that's not, in my experience, what our prayer is about. It's more about shifting our consciousness of what is and seeing it differently. Like to see a situation that might be bad in a whole new light through prayer, all of a sudden it becomes an amazing educational, enlightening experience instead of the worst thing that ever happened to you. So while I have seen manifestations happen, I've seen miracle-like healings happen through prayers that I've participated in, I don't necessarily see prayer as manifesting to get something. It's manifesting to see the world in a way that's a better reality, a more meaningful reality, a more truth reality, which is there's good in just about everything. I mean, you could say there is good in everything, but.
Yeah, I don't know that I have more. I agree with everything they said. It is, so I don't know that I have anything to really add to that, except it's really important to see things differently, and then, in a sense, I act differently from that, and that can go into manifestation in what we're manifesting. What? I was just going to say, what about frequency and vibration? What about frequency and vibration in manifestation? Yeah, well, there is, when we are stepping into a different energy or a different vibration of our truth, or what's opposite, maybe something that's maybe going on with myself that I don't maybe like initially or something, and I want it to shift. If I shift my perspective that to a, in a sense, higher consciousness, that increases vibration and energy, I thought.
Well, I'll just give you an example of that. So in my life, there has been a lot of shifting going on with partners and locations and just in my family. And so if I tell myself, oh no, this is terrible, people are suffering, I'm scared, just even as I say those things, feel what you're feeling. It's kind of and we all do that because we all get scared. But when I used the process of affirmative prayer for myself and I claimed what is true, what I shifted to is thinking about the winds of creation are always moving, and that I and my family are the winds of creation. And something is stirring, something is being created. And while it may be uncomfortable, like think about a blustery day, that doesn't always feel like, yay, the wind is blowing like crazy. But it can. It can. Sometimes we go out in that windy day and we just feel alive. So when I phrase it for myself as we are the winds of creation, then I feel enlivened. I feel hopeful and excited and curious. And that's a much higher vibration than
Because we all know that shift happens, right? Dennis, can you bring the mic level down just a wee bit? It's a little ringy. Yeah.
I have a couple questions online. The first one is from Robin Iona, and she also had a celebration that I missed. She's celebrating feeling much better and that she'll see us all on the 24th. And she also has a question, what is the most challenging part about being a reverend?
people expect you to know the answer. I think for me, the most challenging part is truthfully, it's anything with administration and running, like creating policies and just all that part of it. It's challenging to hold the energy of the things that everybody's going through. You know, that's also challenging, but for me, that just feels easier to do that. It's like, most of you know I also do hypnotherapy, and so people come in with issues, and you know, there's a lot of heavy stuff there, but that doesn't keep me awake at night. But trying to figure out how to organize something that needs to be run, you know, the business part of it, it's just like, I hate that part.
But she's good at motivating others to help, though, so that's good. I think for me, the most challenging part is that we have to face our own demons first to be able to talk about them and help others. And that's been my biggest growing place, is that I've had to look at a lot of what I need to deal with. And it makes me very aware of those things in a way that I never was before. So that's why I think going through the process of becoming a minister is infinitely valuable for your own growth, whether you decide to use it to help other people or not. And also ministry takes a myriad different forms. Like, you don't have to be up on the stage preaching. You could be doing it behind the scenes. There's so many ways you could be helping others with it. But it is a huge growth process here first.
I'd say that being more of an empath and energetically sensitive is maybe something that I've had to work at a lot, to be compassionate and connect with people. but also be able to take care of myself at the same time and not take on people's stuff or not have it, just get overwhelmed by it. Because I think in my life I have sometimes got more overwhelmed by suffering, in a sense. Which also, though, it's a tool to look at wherever, like what Kevin was saying, I am also a person that looks at where do I get triggered, all that kind of stuff, which is a part of the process. And so it also does help me with that. Like, why is it that I'm being triggered or taking this on right now, and all of that. So that's what I'd say.
Good morning. I have a question about raising children, and in a spiritually open way. I grew up Catholic, have a lot of great things that I took from my childhood, but also a lot of relearning and unlearning that has had to be done. And so raising kids, I know Jane and Kevin have children, I don't know about you, Beth, but in your own experience, like looking back, what do you think, from your own personal life went well with raising children who have a spiritual side to themselves that's open and free, and any advice?
Well, for me, it started with just living the life that I wanted them to see and not forcing them into anything, but to start off with being an example. And a lot of times that's letting go of your expectations at the time of what you want them to do or see or feel. And that's really hard as a parent. Those of you who are parents know that letting go is the hardest thing sometimes. But that's always what I come back to with my kids in my life is like, what would I do if my kids were watching every step I was taking? And that pretty much is my mantra for what I do. And then what they decide to do, I found has turned out to be kind of along those same lines. Like I see those things that I didn't think I was actually teaching them appear in them down the line later on. And it takes 25 years before you actually see the results of that. So hang in there, and it also helps to get them volunteering in the AV booth, because then they start to suck up the messages too and stuff.
It's an interesting question, because when my kids were younger, I didn't have spiritual support of a community. And so I think that for me, it had more to do with character. And like I can remember my youngest daughter saying, oh, it's okay if you don't have a friend, because you can go outside and Mother Earth will be a friend to you. And I thought, I might have talked about Mother Earth. And, I mean, something had rubbed off there, as well as what her own soul was bringing in. I think there was, and there were values things, like there was a time that Rachel threw something on the ground in the parking lot, some litter, and I sort of came unglued at her and told her that, this is not how we treat Mother Earth. And so that daughter grew up to be, a real hippie, environmentalist who would never litter. And so there just are moments like that. But I think just giving them breathing space and knowing who they are, knowing, seeing their divinity and leaving that room to grow, because you don't know what their paths are. And their paths don't necessarily look like the same path that I have taken, and yet they are both, I would say, very deep women, and they are beautiful mothers. And I don't think that they would be disaligned with anything that I would be teaching here, but they express it differently. And just allowing yourself every step of the way to be okay with that. And also to be open for surprises. Like when when my oldest daughter was in high school and, you know, she was mostly had her door closed and was ignoring me and doing things that were getting her in trouble. And then one day at Barnes & Noble, she asked me if she could buy some books, and she pulled off, you know, the Tao of Pooh and the Tay of Piglet and Wisdom of the Dalai Lama and Autobiography of a Yoga. And I'm like, I'll buy it all for you. Take all the books. So sometimes there just are surprises that come along that you can't anticipate. So if you seed the field with worry about, oh no, what's going to happen to them, that's not helping. But if you seed it with these wondrous beings are unfolding, let's see what happens, and just fertilize it with love and spaciousness. That's the best I got right now.
I don't have my own children, but I have godchildren, and I'm just thinking of a neuroscience. I teach resonance and some neuroscience, and I know from people saying this in their connection with their children is that the more that we can deeply see and understand, as Jane said, their divinity, but just see and understand them, use communication that really can help the child be seen and understand, then they can be more self-regulated, and they'll be more in their prefrontal cortex, they'll be more in their creativity and intuition, and be able to have their own truth more clearly by being regulated and having somebody really see who they are apart from the parent or other people.
Well, first, thank you so much for being there on stage answering these beautiful questions. My questions relate to as you mentioned, Mother Earth, to the environment, the preservation of its environment. Would you consider this awareness and action towards preservation of the environment a spiritual practice?
Would you consider action towards the environment a spiritual practice? Is that?
Yes, preservation of its environment.
Yeah.
Like awareness of
Yeah.
wastage, wasting water,
Yeah.
recycling,
Gotcha.
gasoline, all of these kind of things.
Yes, exactly. I totally do. I think showing respect and love for our environment, for Mother Earth, if you study all of the religions of the world, they all have something about that at their core. And I think that that's often overlooked, maybe not emphasized as much, but I'm in the process of studying world religions, and I did this interesting experiment. I started to think about if I was to put together all of the most amazing core beliefs from every religion, from Christianity to witchcraft, what would they entail? And so I started to think about and put together, and I even got AI involved and threw them all in there and had AI put together a list of what the commonalities between all the world's religions were, including indigenous religions and under recognized ones. And every single one of them, there were some really powerful things, and I would love to share that more in detail, but respect and care for the earth is part of that for every religion. So yes, I think it is, and I think that it sometimes it gets kind of sidestepped or pushed aside when it really should be part of the core.
I would say that if you think about oneness, and if I harm myself, that is not spiritual. If I care for myself, that is. If I recognize that the earth is one with me, it is my body, then caring for the earth becomes as incumbent as caring for this physical body. And it's highly spiritual. That's how I think of it.
I agree, so I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you again for answering complicated questions here. I believe in excitement, and it's such a vast world that we can dive into here. But I really wanted to ask you, what, each one of you, what excites you right now? Like, what's exciting for you? And also, what is most challenging for all three of you?
Well, being with my grandchildren is really exciting for me. I love it so much. It exhausts me, and I usually need a nap afterwards, but it's exciting. And I'm really excited by making connections to how things work together. So, like, I'm writing a book, and I love to write. So when I'm writing that book and making connections and seeing, and how this could help somebody, that's exciting to me. I have a lot of things, I don't know if excitement is the right word, but a lot of things that I'm passionate about, that I love, that really raise my vibration. And so I love doing things like that. What is challenging for me is it's being in a world that is not kind and caring often. That's very challenging, and I retreat from focusing on that and focus on the higher vibratory dimension, and just know that somehow this is coming forth. I just don't know the details, and I will do what's mine to do as I am aware of it.
You know what excites me right now that I've actually really noticed recently is when this community comes together in the energy like we had last night, or at some of our services, when everybody is just on the same page and vibing and excited and loving each other. Like, I get so jazzed about that, which sounds kind of goofy, like I could get jazzed about much more things, but to see everybody just vibing together and enjoying and kind and laughing and having a great time is like, that makes it all worth it. Then all of a sudden, all the work and all the background stuff that was stressing me out just becomes like, that was a drop in the bucket. It was worth it, But you have to have those experiences, I think, to kind of keep you in check. But that really is what gets me excited. That's why I do what I do here, is because for those moments when you see it all come together and you see people, the lights going off in their heads and their hearts are just shining, that's amazing. And the most challenging, personally for me, is judgment. I have to constantly self-talk myself out of judging what I think others should be doing. Because I have no control over that. But it's hard to let go, no matter where you are in life. I don't see anybody ultimately enlightened to the point where you have absolutely no judgment. Maybe that's true, but I'm going to work for it, but I don't think I'll get there.
So probably the most exciting thing for me this past year especially is with working some of my issues, which I've been a person that has done that, opening up to being more my full self, etc. There's a way that I would not let myself be seen as much, or I had fears, etc., stuff from the past. And so this year it's been really exciting to me to feel trusting more, maybe the universal energy, feeling that energy supporting me in teaching classes about what I have such excitement about, which is relationships and consciousness and how do we connect more in life. And so that was very exciting to teach a 8-week class and to help others have more skills and awareness about how we connect and see and understand other people, because that is one of my exciting things. And challenges. I think that living a world where I sometimes think that it doesn't reflect me, as far as kind of what Jane might have said around love and kindness and peace. I also have to recognize that the world is my mirror, so it keeps me still looking at where am I this, where am I not telling the truth, where am I a liar, where am I all those kinds of things, where am I not such and such. But that is a challenge that sometimes I feel like, what the hell world do I live in? Even though my immediate world or my unity world or my family world does look like my values and love and peace in that. But I can get quite discouraged, sad, angry, like probably many of us here, about wanting to feel that reflection and live in that, more in that love that and peace that I so believe in and want my life to be like. So, and I'm grateful also for having that, but yeah. So there.
Could you please tell us about some various ways to meditate? I think that the empty-minded style of meditation is really kind of overemphasized, and it's super difficult to do, and then people try and they kind of feel like they failed, or like, I can't meditate because I can't get my mind empty. So could you just tell us some different styles to meditate, please?
I can start. The way that because we all can get tripped up by thinking meditation is my mind's going to be empty and I'm just going to sit there like this, or sit a certain way, or I never was a person that could cross their legs right and all that kind of stuff when I would go to some meditation retreats a long time ago. So I think of meditation being really about how do we be extremely present with what's happening right now in the moment, whether I'm walking, whether I'm talking to a person, whether I'm sitting in a way. Some also techniques that I really love is toning, vibrating myself, so that really relaxes or gets me more into alpha and theta brain waves, which gets me more in touch with my intuition, creativity. It's more contemplative for me. Breath work is a wonderful way to do that. There's so many different ways to meditate, but I think all of life can be meditation. I don't know what else.
Yeah, I agree. I think the key is presence with whatever is happening right now. My favorite ways are presence with music or sounds. So if you close your eyes and you're meditating, to just hear whatever's there without judgment of it, whether it's the sound of traffic outside, whether it's the sound of a hum, whether it's the sound of somebody snoring next to you. But it's easy to start judging. I'm not talking about you. You start to analyze those sounds and go, oh, I wish that traffic wasn't so loud. Oh, that person is making this loud, heavy breathing or whatever. But then if you take all the judgment out and just listen to the sound and accept it, it becomes a meditative practice. Well, of course, music is always great for that. I have a couple of oddball ones that I'll throw in there since they're not here, but one is to stop the self-talk coming in. I actually make up nonsense words like a chant. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll be, like the Gregorian chants, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just making those sounds because I'll have like, I got to get to my homework tomorrow. All of a sudden it goes away, and I just turn those words in my head into mumbo jumbo, and then it becomes like a meditation. And I came up with that a while ago, and I don't know why, but I was just trying to find ways to silence those words. But turn it into mumbo jumbo and make it like your favorite Gregorian chant, and it really works, actually. The other thing that I do is, you guys heard of the twirling dervishes? I actually do that every morning. I can spin for an unlimited amount of time and just meditate while spinning, and I do that every morning. I'm
thinking about other things. There's there's this difference between more of an Eastern way, which is the meditating, emptying the mind, and the Western way, which is more of a contemplating. And so I feel like I lean more toward that Western way of having, so in the, like in the Christian church, in that tradition, it would have been contemplating a Bible passage, and you could do that, but you could contemplate anything. You could contemplate an orange in front of you and all the aspects of an orange. You could get into mindful eating, where you spend a half an hour just, being present with that orange. You could be contemplating an image like a lotus flower and how that beauty grows from being down. So, the stem goes so far into the mud, and then contemplating the mud of our lives and how we can rise from that and because of that into unfolding the beauty of what we are. And you're just being with that presence. And then maybe there's some silence in it where you just sit in awe of that reality. Or maybe there's also guided visualizations that you could listen to for yourself if that is helpful. So those, and then walking meditations where you're moving, but you're not out for your power walk to get steps and calories off. You're focusing on the way your foot touches the earth, and you're noticing what's the beauty of the earth around you, and that's a kind of meditation too. That's a great question. Thanks, Russell.
It made me think of just the whole aspect of slowing things down, paying attention, just slowing things down.
Thank you for that. Along the lines of mindfulness and being conscious while eating an orange, how do you balance that with living a purpose-driven life, especially amidst change and all the senses coming in? How do you still live with intention towards future growth?
Yeah, I think I'm hearing, how do you combine that with the challenges of everyday life and things that we need to get done? And is that what you kind of mean? Living intentionally. Sorry. Just want to make sure we have the question exactly.
Sure. So Alan Watts said that paradoxically, a purpose-driven life actually removes you from all of your senses and opening up to the world around you. And so he says that actually a purpose-driven life takes away from that mindfulness, that consciousness, and instead to be open and receptive to that. Yet we often try and develop and cultivate purpose in community, spirit, and what we're trying to change. So how do you balance that between being fully receptive and mindful in your day-to-day life and also still cultivating the positive change that you're trying to see in the world?
Well, if I'm understanding that correctly, I think they absolutely go hand in hand. Like, you can't have one without the other. Mindfulness doesn't mean you're not doing anything. What was it? Some famous yogi said, if you think you're too busy to meditate twice as long, because that's when you need it the most, and that's when you come out of your meditation with so much more clarity and focus that you get more done. So I don't think that mindfulness takes away from purpose and accomplishment or anything that, it enhances it. And I am somewhat familiar with Alan Watts, but I'm not 100% clear on that distinction between one exclusive of the other, if that's what I'm hearing. But to me, they're absolutely entangled. And the more mindful, the more still my mind gets, the more productive, the more purpose-driven I feel like I am. So I feel like that's what gives me a clearer sense of purpose, is when I take time to be mindful and to pray and listen to what comes, what the downloads are.
I also think they're not mutually exclusive, but they might not be happening at the same time. So, for example, if I think about a purpose-driven life, like we talk about our mission statement here, to create this deep ecosystem of unity and deep wisdom and loving kindness, that's a purpose by which we can measure everything that we do. And so these activities that I engage in are in service of that, or whatever your personal purpose in life might be. What you do is in service of that. And then the mindfulness happens, well, for me, it doesn't happen 24/7 for sure. And that's why I think of a meditation practice as something that, there you go, it will decrease your protein symptoms. I think it grounds me, whatever the meditation practice is, or the different practices where I'm paying attention, it grounds me in knowing that what I see, and when you talk about removing yourself from the senses, to me that's removing yourself from the material evidence that's out there that things are a certain way. And it isn't so much removing yourself from that amazing smell or the beauty that you see there. I don't see there's any spiritual benefit in removing yourself from that. It's the sensory evidence that says you can't do, you can't be, you can't have. That's what you remove yourself from. And as you're engaged in activities, you may or may not be particularly mindful in that moment. You may just be, you are focused on accomplishing something and you're getting it done, but the work that you have done to be a more mindful person is informing how you go about that, because they just weave together.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think that for me, my purpose is very driven by mindfulness or intentionality, and that, how I show up in everything is part of my purpose, I believe, and so the two really go together for me. Not that it's always easy, whether I'm having to do some kind of financial report on the computer or something. In every moment, I think we have the choice. How am I going to be with whatever I'm doing? And some of the things in my life I don't really love doing. I'm sure with all of you too, some of the things I really am jazzed about doing, some not. So, or sometimes when I'm relating to somebody, or my husband is cranky, or any of the things that are happening, it's like in any moment I get to choose, how do I show up? What am I thinking about this person or myself? And just, that's a moment by moment mindfulness in everything is what I think. Not that it's easy to do, but that's... Oh, it's really easy. It's really easy. I think it gets easier, or it gets more habitual almost, maybe, which is a great thing. And there's Lawrence. Hello, Lawrence. Lawrence has a question. Or he's saying hi. You have a question?
Well, one more question here, and I really want to, sorry, I'm playing announcer or MC privilege here and ask it. Primarily towards Jane, but I know Kevin's probably got some feedback on this too. You're about to make a big change in your life in retiring, and I know there's some people in this room, and I know I'm one of the people in this room who have had times in life where you're on a path that the world is happy that you're on. Your family's happy that you have a certain job and you're providing in a certain way, or in this case, the congregation's happy that you're here, Jane, and doing what you do, and would prefer you never to stop doing that. Yeah. how do you know, how do you work with, well, first, how do you recognize that inner calling, that change is necessary, despite what the outer world may want something different from you? So how do you work with those things working against each other and stay true to that path?
Well, I think like Beth talks about resonance. I think there's a resonance that we feel inside. And for me, it wasn't woke up one morning and said, okay, done, move on. It has been really a year of moving along a path, and there have been different phases of it. Like back in the spring, my idea was, oh, well, I'm just going to keep teaching classes, and the only thing different is I don't have to run anything, because that's the part of my greatest incompetence. And as the community has grown, when we started, there were 24 people on a Sunday, and there wasn't a lot to run, because there wasn't a lot that was happening. And so I was coming on Sunday, and I was teaching classes, and I was connecting with people and starting to build community, all the things that I love. And then as we have grown, then there starts to be the parts that are more like the business part of it and the running of things and the organization, and I suck at that. And so I didn't want to do it. And so in the beginning, I thought, well, I'll just not do that part, and then I can do all the fun parts. But then as I continued to go along, that began to morph. And so part of what initiated this for me was my husband's health. So he's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he's still in the early stages, but I realized that, this guy, when he moved down here to be with me, which was back in 2013, he retired from work at that time. And he has been such a support to me, and occasionally we take a trip, but basically I'm working more than full time, and he's retired. And I thought, well, when does it get to be his turn? When does he get to be a priority in the relationship instead of everybody else that I'm always thinking about? And that was really the starting point. And then my kids were, I've got grandkids with all three of them, and they're in various stages of things going on and need some help. And I like being with my grandkids, and they're still all young enough that they like being with me. And so I wanted more of that. And so those were just some of the influences. So it was this process of moving along, and I think about the stages of grief, and when Ruth was here in November and she talked about how there were like 24 of them, and I was wondering what all the rest of them are, but I know that there are some of them I've been hitting, and bargaining is one of them, like, all right, but I can still do this part, right? And then, maybe not. And so there's been a lot of just peeling that back and just, okay, and coming to recognize that there may be something else that wants to grow in me, something that wants to come forth, and I have no idea what it is. And my greatest challenge is going to be to actually sit still and not do 101 things, because I am so good at the doing 101 things part. I'm not very good at sitting still. And so I have this fantasy of I just sit and look out the window at the snow and drink some tea, and I might. I'm going to engage Sarah Jones as a spiritual director to, hold me to the fire that I need to do that. But it's a process. So I guess wherever it is that you are in terms of looking for clarity, be patient with yourself and allow yourself the time to get clear. But also listen to the voice inside that says, this, still this. Sometimes there's an answer that we we want to argue with it. But it's still there, and it's not going away. Listen to that. You ignore it at your peril.
I just want, if anybody was here a couple weeks ago, I did a talk about integrity, internal integrity, and that resonates with me with what Jane is saying, is you feel it. You feel when you're not on the right path, and you may not be able to know exactly what to do about it, but you feel something is misaligned, and it manifests in either health challenges or relationship challenges or something else. But it will manifest in some way when you're out of alignment, and you got to do something about it. I think do we have time for one or two more?
No, we're 20 hours, we should probably wrap up, so, yeah. Unless you guys want to be here till noon.
Yeah.
Can we give these guys a fantastic round of applause?